Welcome to Takeaways. My name is Jordan Brooks, Director of Market Analytics with ALN Apartment Data. And this month's newsletter was titled, "A Potential Warning Sign Emerged This Winter." The newsletter basically looked at some changes in the absorption trends that we're seeing between newer properties and older properties, of a softening in recent months for those older vintages. And one aspect that overlaps quite a bit with that topic, but not entirely, is price class performance. And so I wanted to just touch on some highlights in the price class world. For details of how ALN defines price classes, go to our website and check out our methodology document. But in general, starting first with the occupancy and absorption changes, we've seen pretty healthy demand maintained across the price classes for the most part over the last 6 months. We have seen a little bit of a drawdown for Class D specifically, but if you look at the 6-month change versus a 3-month change, that 3-month number has actually picked back up a little bit. So whereas a few months ago it was looking like we might be having a little bit of an issue with Class D, so far at least that subset has kind of picked up some steam. And when we get to the rent and concessions performance here in a second, we'll touch on that again. But at the top of the market, demand still looks good, Class A and Class B specifically. And when you look at occupancy, all 4 price classes have either gained ground over the last 6 months or have at least outperformed the previous period. So the same period of the calendar a year ago. And that would be the case in particular for the workforce housing segment. So Class C and Class D haven't seen outright occupancy gains over the last 6 months like the top of the market has, but they have seen improved performance relative to the same period a year ago. Now, when we move to the rent picture, of course, we're still seeing rents go in the wrong direction. Average effective rent for new leases in slightly positive territory for Class A properties over the last 6 months, and negative territory for Classes B, C, and D. That's especially the case for Class D, where just in the last 6 months, we've seen average effective rent decline almost 3%. And again, as I mentioned, with the Class D absorption softening a little bit over the 6-month term and picking back up over the 3-month term, a part of that has been lease concessions. So as absorption started to tail off a little bit at the end of 2025, we saw operators come back even stronger with lease concessions, which have already been elevated across the board, especially in the workforce housing segments. But for Class D specifically, just in the last 3 months, we've seen double-digit increase in the availability of lease concessions, and we've also seen a strong increase in the average value of lease concessions. So as I said, absorption started to tail off a little bit, and operators came right back with lease concessions, trying to sort of at least get a sugar high in the Class D absorption in particular. Interestingly, at the top of the market for Class A, if you look over the last 6 months, we've seen the first decline in lease concession availability that we've seen really over in the last few years, and then also the first decline in the average concession value that we've seen over the last couple of years. So we're starting to see a little bit of a divergence by price class, particularly in the lease concession environment. And if you want more details on that, check out our blog at alndata.com/blog, where we actually had a post go up just this week about lease concessions by price class. With that, I'll leave you for this month. A couple of upcoming events that I have, if you are interested in these markets. April 22nd, I'll be speaking in Boise for the Idaho Apartment Association's annual conference. And May 7th, I'll be speaking up at the South Carolina annual conference. So if those markets are relevant to you, check out our social media for registration details on those. And just search for ALN Apartment Data on your social media platform of choice, and you'll find us there. See you next month.